Good evening and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tudo Hoyani. This evening, let us look at the decision that Gininda told the Pretoria High Court about, that because the MEYIWA investigation was a prosecution-driven investigation, a decision was made by the prosecutors not to charge Kelly Khumalo. Now, that is, to me, unprecedented. Here are the police. Here is a senior investigator or the lead investigator of a criminal offense. This lead investigator informs the Pretoria High Court that a warrant of arrest had been prepared for Kelly Khumalo and that warrant of arrest was never executed because this was a prosecution-led investigation. In other words, what Gininda is telling the court in simple terms is this. Gininda is telling the Pretoria High Court, or told the Pretoria High Court, that subsequent to thorough investigations, he was able to establish that Kelly Khumalo was the mastermind behind the killing of MEYIWA. He had mountains and mountains of evidence to that effect. Well, the veracity of that evidence is something else. But he had the evidence, and all that had to happen was for Kelly Khumalo to get arrested. Now, for some strange reason, the prosecution takes an opposite view and says Gininda must continue to probe further, and that perhaps after further investigation, they might consider whatever options are there regarding Kelly Khumalo and her arrest. What do you make of all this? How does an investigation, I don't even want to bother myself whether it's a prosecution-led investigation or whatever they choose to call it. But let me say this to you, that how does an investigation yield a suspect? Not an ordinary suspect, not a foot soldier, but a mastermind. And there are people sitting in the Pretoria High Court, allegedly masterminded by her. And after that investigation has been done, a decision is made by the prosecutors not to get Kelly Khumalo arrested and charged. We have seen a lot that has been happening in this country recently. A lot is being heard at the Madlanga Commission. We are hearing a lot coming out of the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee, which is probing similar issues of corruption within the justice system, corruption within, the prosecution service, and many other acts which have, rendered the justice system in South Africa non-existent, paralyzed, and captured. Now, this sort of thing that I'm seeing in that I've seen in the Pretoria High Court, raises a red flag for me. It raises a red flag for me, and in my view, warrants some kind of investigation. There needs to be a thorough probe by the Hawks to look into this situation. We cannot just have this kind of information hanging in the air. And apparently, it did not ring a bell with the Pretoria High Court. We cannot have this sort of thing just hanging in the air unattended. What was going on here? If this investigation had yielded this mastermind, right, and this mastermind had been identified, and this mastermind is readily available at any given time, who then took the decision not to charge this mastermind. And according to Gininda, the investigation into the sense of MEYIWA trial is supposed to be an ongoing investigation, in spite of the fact that the trial is already underway. So this calls for some kind of investigation. There are no brown envelopes involved here. How come that a decision of that nature, made by the lead investigator, is just rejected and not acted upon by the prosecution? Because supposedly this was a prosecution-led investigation. So what do you make of the fact that Kelly Khumalo remains on the record of the Pretoria High Court? What do you make of the fact that Kelly Khumalo has been declared the mastermind in the death of her own boyfriend, Senzo MEYIWA? What are we supposed to make of that information? Are we just supposed to abandon that information and say to ourselves, oh well, this was a prosecution-led investigation, the prosecutors had a prerogative of who to charge or not to charge? There needs to be an investigation, like I've already alluded to, the Madlanga Commission and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. Surely, there are a lot of too many red flags here. And there's, like they say, there's no smoke without fire. So it's about time we started looking deeper and deeper into the Senzo MEYIWA trial and the shenanigans surrounding it, with the view of saying the Hawks have a job to do here. The Hawks have a job to do here. Crime intelligence has a job to do here. We cannot just have situations of this nature to be left unattended. So that is my take this evening, that there needs to be an investigation around the non-prosecution of Kelly Khumalo. Because why would anybody, block a warrant of arrest, being sought by a lead investigator in a criminal, investigation, allegedly because, just because this was a prosecution-led investigation? On what basis did the prosecutors, exercise their discretion not to get her arrested, not to have that, warrant of arrest executed? We need more clarity around such issues if this situation is supposed to be addressed, and we need to get to the bottom of it. Having said that, let me thank you for watching this video. Let me thank you for all the views, subscriptions, likes, and shares that I'm seeing. And have a wonderful, wonderful evening and night. Thank you.